The caption of that video is how women want attention, and I think that's very factually true. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name is Luke Radowski here of wearechange.org, and we are going to be live for the next 2 hours talking about all the latest, craziest news unfolding right now in our mainline political discourse, as of course there are some politicians out there that want to eviscerate every single strand of freedom and privacy left in this country, while, of course, serving the merchants of the military-industrial complex. We're going to be talking about that, plus all the latest news happening in the Middle East, happening with Will Smith, and happening around an issue that, of course, we cannot talk about in this broadcast. But essentially, if I could visually represent it for it's this. Do you get what we're trying to say here? We can't say it here on this platform, and when the conversation continues on Rumble, we, of course, will be fully getting into it after an hour here on, of course, youtube.com/wearechange, where you guys could participate in this broadcast many different ways, and one of the best ways to do that is to go to, of course, LULunfiltered.com, where, of course, you get to sign up as a member. And then when you do, you get access to a special Telegram channel where you get to actually be a part of the conversation. Call in with your face, your questions, unfiltered, uncensored, all through, of course, LULunfiltered.com. You join a Telegram channel. You could send us articles. You could send us videos to react to. All that a part of LULunfiltered.com, and one of the many, many, many perks you get as a member of this incredible platform. Another way to participate is, of course, through mysuperchats.com, a platform that only takes 3% cut from your super chats. YouTube, by the way, takes 30%. MySuperchats.com will allow your message to be shown to everyone on screen. We will be addressing all of them with all your super chats and Rumble rants here on, of course, this independent media broadcast. As, of course, we have a jam-packed show with some really awesome, incredible individuals joining us today for this conversation. One of them is, of course, the one and only Marta Bueno. She is a politician here in the Southern Florida area. But Marta, for the people who don't know you, who are you?
Like you said, I was a politician. I'm no longer one. I ran for Miami-Dade County Commissioner, and I'm currently the CEO of Our Good, a chewable nano Delta 8 tablet.
If someone called me a politician, I would have been like, ugh, why? So apologies in advance for my indiscretion against you. Clint from the Liberty Lockdown podcast is also here. Who are you?
Clint Russell, former entrepreneur turned Liberty ranter and now co-host of this fine program, as well as the host of Liberty Lockdown. Make sure you subscribe on audio podcatchers and YouTube and Rumble, everything else. Just search Liberty Lockdown, as well as Tower Gang every Wednesday night. I will be on with Dave Smith on Timcast IRL on Thursday. Don't miss it, and I'll be there on Friday as well. It's going to be fun.
Stefania is also here. We speak as a Spanish now.
Buenas tardes, todo el mundo.
Buenas noches, señorita.
Thank
Correcto.
you. Oh, yes. Correction. My name is Stephanie. I'm here on behalf of We Are Change. Steph, We Are Change on Insta.
Yeah, es no bueno aquí porque es loco politicians, es muy mierda. We'll get into it, plus a lot more. But of course, I think the first story that a lot of people are talking about is the very crazy, bombastic, and let's just be honest here, radicalized statements made by Nikki Haley, who is trying to become the next president of the United States, who today also was supported by Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan and Chase, that said that, she's probably going to be the one that could help our economy. Probably what he means is she probably will be the presidential candidate that will start so many global conflicts that everyone will forget about the economy, therefore saving it in some kind of weird, twisted logic. Because, of course, a lot of ruling elites truly do believe in this crazy ideology that you need war to save the economy, even though wars are financed by the big banksters to ruin local populations and, of course, wealth, as life is essentially sacrificed at the altar for the personal well-beings of those money influencers and controllers. Let's get into this first video that, of course, is going viral of Nikki Haley, who was on Fox News and had these crazy, bombastic, idiotic, radicalized, crazy statements that she told everyone on national television and wasn't even ashamed of doing it.
When I get into office, the first thing we have to do, social media accounts, social media companies, they have to show America their algorithms. Let us see why they're pushing what they're pushing. The second thing is every person on social media should be verified by their name. That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden people have to stand by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots, the Iranian bots, and the Chinese bots. And then you're going to get some civility when people know their name is next to what they say.
Accountability.
And they know their pastor and their family member is going to see it. It's going to help our kids, and it's going to help our country. When I
And
get
then, of course, when we have the gulags and the camps and the trains, we are going to make sure that everyone is going to have a nice handy badge that they're going to be sent off to the nice government re-education camps that literally were already put to the test in the Western world, specifically in Australia. Again, a total digital identification system is something that we have been warning about for a very long time here, especially on independent media. We've been saying a day and age is coming when any kind of privacy, any kind of freedom, any kind of anonymity, any kind of ability to actually speak your mind freely and be able to, of course, keep your identity secret is going away, as of course we are dealing with a totalitarian, total information surveillance state that wants to track, trace, and database everything. And once you do that, once you put an identity, it's essentially game over, as you could rig the algorithm, you could rig the artificial intelligence, and the levels of manipulation that will happen, especially when it comes to the curation of algorithms, especially when it comes to the larger psyops that are run by the intelligence agencies that truly do control the social media networks, is going to be totally out of this control, totally out of control. And in my opinion, the situation would be absolutely game over for everyone. That's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Or am I just being a crazy conspiracy theorist, as they call it? Or a realist?
Yeah, no, you're definitely not being a crazy conspiracy theorist. She's saying it overtly. She wants to make all anonymous accounts no longer anonymous. Well, even though I am a public figure and I do have my name out there, I have a lot of friends that are still anonymous because they have corporate gigs, and I understand that, like, the vast majority of people, thanks to ESG and DEI and a bunch of other protocols that are largely government driven, that have made it so that it's impossible to speak your mind without having your job and your livelihood jeopardized. Many of these people would just shut up if they couldn't have an anonymous account. And I think that's ultimately what they want. They want as much narrative control as humanly possible. And not everybody is capable of committing their entire life to this process. So I think it's a terrible idea, but it not at all surprising, because Nikki Haley is clearly, from my vantage point, clearly the chosen candidate. I mean, the fact that keep in mind, JP Morgan Chase is the #1 bank in America, which makes it one of the biggest banks on earth. The fact that Jamie Dimon comes out and supports her today, the fact that she's been pushing anti-Semitism, hate speech, laws, the fact that she now wants to get rid of anonymity, she wants to have censorship and spying apparatus on the internet. She is deep state 101, and also she's in favor of every war that you could possibly think of. She is one of the most dangerous politicians walking the earth today.
You made a point you made a point that I really wanted to expand on, because she's also the same politician that says, if you say something that's against Israel, jail. If you say something that we disagree with, jail. Now she's like, we just want to know who's everyone online. Get the F out of here, you crazy sociopath. No. Martha, what do you think about this proposition, and what would be your response to if something like this was actually implemented?
Oh my God. I mean, like, this is just horrendous. Who does this woman think she is? And also, I think
a boomer neocon calling for a social credit score system? That's who she is?
Totally. I mean, we already have the government involved in our social media. They're already there. We had the Twitter files. We know that the government is there. We know that the government is already involved in doing all these things and checking us out and figuring out who we are. Do we need it more? Like, this is her point. We want more of the same. Why? Of course, because you just said it. She's a war hawk and a neocon and all of those things. I mean, the Federalist Papers were originally published with a pseudonym. Obviously, being able to publish things with anonymity is something that our American values have been around since forever. Like, she's trying to push back against that. And I think, you guys have already said it way more eloquently than I ever will. She's just not a good person.
She is filled with mierda. Is that how you say it?
I don't think you're supposed to say that on YouTube. I don't know if we could get in trouble.
I think we could say it. It's Spanish. We're we could say.
Okay.
Can we? I don't know.
I have no idea. I have no idea. But I just want to point out something real quick, because people are going to say that I'm bringing this up because I'm trying to shame her for her heritage. Not at all the case. I just want to point out the hypocrisy. her actual name is Nimarata Nikki Randhawa Haley, and she goes by Nikki Haley to try and Americanize her name. I don't have any problem with that. But what I do have a problem with is you saying that we all have to use our legal name. She even said in that video she wants to use whatever your driver's license says, because that'll bring civility. Well, how about we get your full name? See how much more civil that makes you. She's not even living out her own principles. She's just a fraud.
And where is she from? Like, where's that name from? Just curious.
Well, no, I mean, her family, I think, is from India originally. I think she was born here, but I don't really know. I assume. She's running for president, so she must have been born here.
This is not also the first time that she said these crazy kind of outlandish statements, as of course, this is something that she stands behind firmly, and even on a separate media organization when she was being interviewed by Ruthless, she had this to say.
They need to verify every single person on their outlet and I want it by name. Because when
what about Smug? Does he qualify?
I've provided them with my government.
If Smug is on your driver's license, then, and look, you can put Smug in parentheses, but I want everybody's name. They need to verify every single person on their outlet and I want it by name. Because when
what about Smug? Does he qualify?
I've provided them with my government.
I think, yeah. Sorry about that. But if this happens, if this gets implemented, I think I would officially change my name to Nanya. Last name Business, okay? Because I don't give a damn. I want to poop post. I want to share memes. I want to share ideas that sometimes I don't want to put my face behind. And I think that ability to be able to freely express yourself, as of course, the internet is a double-edged sword. And if you're going to be implementing these laws, you should at least have some free speech. But we don't have any free speech. We have, of course, a lot of central figures in social media that are working with the federal government and the intelligence agencies, just like they have from the very beginning, destroying, collaborating, and conspiring to destroy political speech in this country that is inconvenient to the establishment. And whether it's news stories, photos, videos, documentaries, you name it, any piece of information that they just don't like, they make sure that it's going to be very difficult to find. They're going to make sure that a lot of people are just accidentally unsubscribed, that they're muted, that of course they're not shared around as widely in the timelines as of course all the other things that do play ball, that do go along with their bullcrap, which brings me to the next story, and that of course is the implosion happening inside of the Daily Wire, as we recently saw Ben Shapiro go after his own person that he works with, Candace Owens, and then heavily criticize her for, what was the exact words that he used here, Clint?
I think he said it was shameful.
Yeah. We could play the full video. I played it in my earlier broadcast today. But, the Daily Wire also has individuals like Jordan Peterson that work for it. Jordan Peterson, who again also has been very vocal on this very issue and has been heavily criticized, as of course he comes out and he attacks people for criticizing him anonymously. And this is also another kind of issue that they're tied with again, as of course his perspective on the entire Middle East conflict has been very emotional, very biased, very one-sided comparatively to everything else that we've been seeing out there, which a lot of people were surprised to see. But you're seeing a lot of different parallels between Nikki Haley, Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, the Daily Wire. And if you don't, go along with the messaging or the official narrative, you get kind of called out and publicly attacked, just like Candace Owens was, with a national audience, as his comments, Ben Shapiro's comments, were just recorded and then shared around to everyone on the internet, which pretty distasteful. It's not good workers etiquette, to say the least.
Yeah, what I find most disturbing about it, though, is that Candace Owens has been very moderate on this issue. Like she's put out really boilerplate kind of Christian sentiment, like, hey, let's not, genocide people. Let's not kill kids by the thousands. And that is enough for her to have run afoul of her own boss. I don't understand what they're expecting. Like, everybody at the Daily Wire has to march in lockstep as thousands of kids are killed. If that's their if that's the litmus test for working for the Daily Wire, it's not going to be a fun time.
So if you disagree with Ben Shapiro, you're kind of, she's not out, so we'll see where that goes. But.
Right.
Yet.
Yeah.
She's not out yet.
I think she's en route, honestly, because the fact that she's willing to continue to to do this. She's been doing it for a couple weeks now, and the fact that this video just came out yesterday, or I think it was actually early this morning, where Ben is at some big party. He's standing up there, this little tiny guy,
His little box.
standing up on a couch or something.
It came out last night. We could play the video right now.
All right, let's do it.
I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
Yeah, now imagine being at the meeting the next morning as that video goes live, as the two are supposed to now work together in some way. But that's not only the biggest difference between these two kind of larger representations at the Daily Wire, there's also a big difference when it comes to addressing big pharma. As it's important to note here that Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro all told everyone to we're on YouTube here, to get a procedure that there wasn't a lot of scientific backing of, but there was a lot of big pharma marketing with. And Candace Owens was one of the few individuals that actually spoke out against this issue, made a very, bold stand, and when we look back at it, the right stand on this issue. As of course, a lot of people were hurt, a lot of people remained, a lot of people are injured, a lot of people have lost their lives because of the bad advice that was given by Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, who never publicly really addressed this or apologized in any way after recommending people do the thing that we can't say that everyone was forced and extorted to do just a few years ago. So there's a lot of big ideological differences, and I don't know. For me personally, I don't see Candace Owens working there that much longer.
I think she should. I'm sorry.
No, please.
I think she should pull a Tucker Carlson and hightail it out of there.
Get fired,
or start her own thing and crush them. I think she's a big enough name now at this point that they need her more than she needs them.
That's where I'm a little confused. I thought she was starting her own thing, so maybe I'm coming out from under a rock, but I had no idea she was part of the Daily Wire. I thought she had her own show and everything.
No, she works for the Daily Wire.
Yeah.
But also, when you look at Tucker Carlson, I don't think that's a good example, because Tucker Carlson was the #1 news anchor in all of America. He was keeping Congress in check. He was keeping Kevin McCarthy in check. He was able to have a huge impact. He was able to go live for an hour on national television and be the #1 show that everyone would always talk about. He would be making the news instead of just talking about the news. And now, he releases some videos. He just showed up to Spain recently to talk about the larger demonstrations happening in that region. He interviewed the next potential president of Argentina, which I think Martha. I want to get into that too. I want to get into what's happening in Madrid too. I don't know if you're following up on that issue as well. But big stories are happening, but it's not having that much of an impact like it used to have. So there is some kind of merit to saying that if Tucker Carlson stayed on Fox News, he would have had a bigger, larger impact. And I think that statement is true. And it might potentially even be true for Candace Owens, who is a part of a large distribution network, one of the biggest media distribution networks out there on social media, that does buy a lot of advertisements, that does dominate the cultural space. And I think there's an argument to make here that she is where she is because of the Daily Wire.
Sure, absolutely. She is where she is because of the Daily Wire, but I'm not saying that she has to be Tucker Carlson. I'm just saying she should go in that direction. I personally would be like, my kind of boss is talking about me in this way. Well, I'd head out and maybe partner up with Tucker Carlson himself. Like, she could be a free agent and do whatever she wants. I would that would be my advice. If, we were girlfriends, I'd be like, I'd go out on my own.
Yeah, her name recognition is really high.
Absolutely.
And I think that, even though Luke may be right that Tucker isn't having as broad of an impact, but I think his impact is actually more profound in this current iteration of himself, because he's interviewing whoever he wants. He's saying whatever he wants. He's really... I think he's course correcting a lot of the narrative about like, oh, you can't go out on your own and succeed. Actually, you can. And I think once he's out from under his contract, which as far as I know, he's still not actually out. He's still under the Fox News contract and probably being paid by them. So that limits the fact that he can monetize his program on X. Once he's able to do that fully, we may find out that it's actually more lucrative to have gone independent, to have been fired by Fox. So I think that Tucker was kind of like the canary in the coal mine. I think Candace could be the next one. There's lots of big influential people that when it comes to these really, hot button issues like Israel-Palestine, people want to be able to speak their mind. And I think that it's better to not have groupthink. I don't think that you should have a network that requires a litmus test that like, oh, you have to stand with some horrific warfare just to get along with your boss. I think it's an absurdity. So if they want to be that rigid ideologically, well then bye. I think Candace will be successful on her own.
Well, Tucker Carlson also was criticized by Ben Shapiro for his coverage of what's happening in the Middle East right now, too, which also kind of binds these kind of anti-establishment, anti-authority figures that clearly there's a big disruption in when it comes to the alternative media. And we're seeing the lines drawn. There's some people that believe America should be first. Other people believe America should be second, third, maybe even last on the priorities list of what politicians should be doing or actually serving. So I think this divide is really shaking things up. It shook things up, especially within the people on the left. It absolutely shook a lot of things on the right, and it divided a lot of people. A lot of people are at each other's throats. They're arguing. They're fighting each other. And I think we're finally seeing a lot of people's true colors, as a lot of the individuals that were saying no more money for foreign wars are saying, maybe just a little bit money for my friends here, please. Just give me, come on, let's do it. We could do it. You know, who cares about the grocery bills, the utility bills, energy prices? Who cares about any of this stuff? Let's just print more money and send it to them so they could, create the perpetual war on terror cycle that creates more terror and never actually fights it and never does anything about it. We got a Rumble rant from the Quartering. Shouts out to the Quartering.
What's up,
He's
Jeremy?
An awesome dude. Shouts out to Jeremy and all the things that he does here on Rumble as well. He said 901 viewers. What does it mean? It's a conspiracy within a conspiracy within a psyop that we have beaten now, and now we have 916 viewers here on Rumble. So shouts out to the Quartering, shouts out to everything that he does on this platform, and the trailblazer that he is when it comes to, of course, independent media and addressing a lot of these key issues. But
sure.
back to the subject at hand here. Which side of the anti-establishment media narratives are you guys on?
Oh, I'm
You're on the side of Israel. We know.
No, I'm not just America
the
first.
IDF, Mossad. I got you. Yeah.
People have been telling me I'm on the side of Hamas. Now all of a sudden I'm on the side of IDF. Who knows? No, I'm actually an America only type of person. I've evolved towards this. I used to be America first, and then it was like, well, apparently that's not being taken seriously. Actually, a really good example of this was when Thomas Massey was tried to be excommunicated by Donald Trump because he wanted a vote. He wanted to have a roll call vote on the COVID aid package. And Donald Trump said, oh, how dare you? How dare you have a roll call vote where people are actually on the record before the largest spending bill in human history is passed? And Thomas Massey put his foot down and he tried to make it happen. So Donald Trump tried to get him out. Keep in mind, Donald Trump ran on an America First campaign, right? But when it came down to it, I think there's only one politician in America that's actually America First, and that's Thomas Massey. So I think that's what we're seeing more of, is that I think that people like Tucker Carlson, maybe Candace Owens, are actually America First type of folks, and they're finding out that the people that they've been bedfellows with are not.
Martha, are you America first or Cuba first?
Well, I'm America first, of course. And yeah, like, it's just crazy to me how general Americans, people working, that have to pay for all these wars. Like, no, we have to be on the side of the people who go to work, the people who support our country. Why are we going to war in other countries, and why are we supporting these things? No, absolutely America first and foremost, and America first, American second, America third. And then maybe if we have some left over,
Cuba.
Yeah. Well, that's on a personal level. That's not on political level.
I want to take it up another notch here, since you guys are America first. I am nobody first. Stop taxing us. Stop taking my money. Stop spending it on bullcrap that we don't need. Stop it. No one first.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that too.
It doesn't have that nice of a slogan, because like America first sounds pretty solid.
Yeah.
Like, it could be in a movie
Me
and a
first.
tagline. Nobody first. Like, stop it. Stop the government. Stop the taxation. Stop the theft. Stop the robbery. Stop the nonsense. We don't need you, son of a guns. We can handle it on our own. Some people are going to win Darwin Awards. Let them. Maybe they deserve to win those Darwin Awards. Maybe we should allow the free market that never really existed here during our recent lifespan. Maybe we should just give that a try instead of centralizing and controlling people and believing that politicians are going to save us. They're not. No politician is going to save you. All of them are self-interested. All of them give a damn about themselves, and they do not give a damn about you.
What I find offensive is that people like Nikki Haley, Chris Christie to a lesser extent, DeSantis too, and Trump for that matter, they all run on America first to some extent. They give it lip service. None of them mean it. None of them mean it at all. And it's just like, when will the people realize it?
I'm shocked.
Politicians
Sorry.
don't mean what they say. But
I don't know what to say to that. Oh my God.
Because look, I understand your reaction, but I'm just saying, for the people that are supporting these alleged outsiders that are actually functioning as just blatant insiders, I don't know why it's taking so long for people to realize, like, how is Nikki Haley climbing in the polls with, like, we're going to just bomb everybody.
She has Chase money behind her.
Yeah,
That's
I
why.
guess.
What politician has ever kept his promise or her promise?
Ron Paul.
Yes. Okay. Thomas Massey. Yeah. But I mean, like the ones that are out there, like
Yeah, no, in terms of like a high profile,
you're
I can't
going
think
to the ones we actually like.
Right.
There's a reason we like them.
Right.
No, for real. Like Chuck Schumer, I just posted today, his 5-year anniversary of saying that when he's gonna legalize cannabis. 5 years? You've had control. Let's go.
Yeah.
When is it going to happen?
Yep.
So they never keep these promises. I mean, I'm shocked. I'm telling you, I'm shocked.
We got another Rumble rant by Switzerland Play IT, who says, Jeremy, see you next Tuesday. Unmute me on your channel. I don't know what you did, Switzerland Play IT. Yeah, Jeremy, they want you to unban them, but that's a different story. But as this story kind of progresses here, and as we move towards these kind of insane policies, how do we like move forward in a way where, again, we don't vote for the lesser of two evils? How do we address a lot of this nonsense? Because there is going to be a shakeup before the next presidential election, and right now you are seeing an establishment shift towards moving away from Ron DeSantis, and a lot of the Wall Street, a lot of the big banksters, a lot of the big corporatist players, they're positioning themselves behind Nikki Haley, who, of course, is a very dangerous warmonger. What would you do? Who would you vote for if you have a choice between Joe Biden and Nikki Haley? You have self-defense tool to your head, and you have to choose one of these two individuals. Who do you vote for, Joe Biden or Nikki Haley? I'm going to leave that poll up on YouTube as well, so people could vote
it was nice knowing y'all.
On this question.
You're checking out, huh?
Yeah.
No, you have to. Who do you have? You have to.
That's what I said. I have to make a choice, or that tool of self-defense is used. Well, it was nice knowing you.
If I'm going to be totally honest, and this is not an easy choice because Joe Biden has been an absolute disaster, but Nikki Haley is Hillary Clinton. Like there is almost no air between these two. Just nightmarish human beings.
Why is it always the women though? Like it's like we need a woman president.
I know,
really?
I know, right? Right.
Why
Martha?
is it these horrible? Like no, they're doing it just a disservice.
No, it's all women, Martha. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you. Just kidding.
I concur.
All right,
I agree. I agree with that
This is
sentiment.
what happens when you come on a podcast with.
We're just messing around. Look, I agree with you. It's sad. It's sad that like even Elizabeth Warren, like all of these women that like rise to the the lofty heights of our political establishment are usually just scum of the earth. Like they're just the worst possible people, and it speaks to the corruption of the system. That's.
I mean, you have Kamala Harris, who. Oh my God! Like, so
hey, she worked very hard on her hands and knees, especially her knees, to get where she's at right now. Okay, she's a hard-working woman. All right.
She's, I'm sure, a very hardworking woman. However, why is it that this is a representation of women in politics? Like, seriously, we need to change this. Where is our female Ron Paul?
Good question. Am I sitting next to her? We'll see.
But I'm out of politics for now.
Yeah. Well, look,
Tulsi Gabbard. What do you guys think about Tulsi Gabbard? She's doing a fundraiser in Miami right now. So we just asked her to come on the show as well. So we'll see. If she comes on.
I'll be kind to her until I get to actually skewer her with questions. But I will say she hasn't struck me as being as anti-war as she originally led on. It seems as if while she does want to largely get our troops out from overseas, at least rhetorically she has said that a few times. When it comes to this extremist Islam element, she's still. I don't know if it's like actually her her true beliefs because she was over in the Middle East, and maybe I know she was working as like a nurse or something, and probably suffered some sort of attacks, and maybe she actually has some sort of animosity towards those people. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know, but her takedown of like Kamala Harris in the debate is like one of my favorites. So how do I feel about her? I don't know. I don't know enough about her actual stances to really make that. I mean, she seems like she's anti-war. she seems like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe she just hasn't gotten paid by the right.
She did endorse Joe Biden.
Yeah.
So,
not a great sign.
After she's like, he's horrible, all these things, and then, but he's going to be your president.
Yeah,
so.
but that's politics.
But
a lot of underhanded, dirty things happen in
Keep
politics.
in mind, it's not just that Kamala Harris, made her career off of her hands and knees, as Luke so eloquently put it, but it's also that this woman held exonerating evidence back from people that were on death row in the state of California. As a former Californian, I take this very personally. She was a DA. She was as vicious as they come. And she's just a bad human being. And I think that that's another example of the females that rise to the lofty heights of our political establishment that are just the worst people.
She laughed about using marijuana while also putting people in jail for marijuana.
Yeah.
So, it's a hypocrite. She's a hypocrite like all of them.
And she lied about listening to Tupac when
he
his
wasn't
album wasn't even out yet.
She was in college and like...
God.
Okay.
Politics.
But, Montel got in there, So there's that. So
that's such a weird caveat. Yes, Montel Williams, the talk show host, he dated her.
She's veteran. She's been through a lot. That poor woman.
I did not know that. I'm learning. I'm today years old. Yep. When
She was taken on a red carpet by Montel, who's like, hey, look who I got. But anyway, let's change topics. I also want to talk about the.
That's worse.
I also want to talk about the wacky tobacco that we're going to talk about on Rumble. But I want to talk about what is happening in Spain right now, because there does seem to be a revolution unfolding in that country right now. There are major demonstrations that Tucker Carlson is covering on the ground right now, as it looks like socialists have fully taken over that government and have been met with tremendous amounts of protest on the streets there. Here's a clip of Tucker Carlson talking to the people of Spain in Spain.
Violence to end democracy is a tyrant, is a dictator, and this is happening in the middle of Europe. So we thought it deserved more coverage than it's getting. If your government is allowing foreigners to come in and hurt you, they're committing war against you. Our news media doesn't report a lot of things, and in our time here, it's very obvious that the socialists in an alliance with the separatists.
And we are having some internet problems as we now have the spinning wheel of buffering. Wait, hold on, sorry.
Are trying to end the rule of law in Spain. If you don't have freedom of speech, you don't have the freedom to defend yourself, and you can't vote your way out of it, the system is rigged, you're in real trouble, real trouble. So I'm really rooting for your success.
Is the world actually seeing how important is what is happening here?
No, the world is not seeing how important it is. But
more buffering. Martha, what do you think about what's happening in España?
I love it. I can't help but love it. I'm sorry. I just think that it's awesome that they're finally fighting back. For the longest time, I thought Spain was just going to lay down and take it.
Can you explain to the people what's going on there? Because it's a little bit of a complicated situation. But in short, it kind of looks like the socialists have just kind of upended the rule of law and have taken a lot of power for themselves without going through
tend to do
without going through kind of the regular processes that they usually would. Can you explain to people what happened?
Yeah. So I'm not as up to date on it, but yes, that's basically it. The party that is for socialism, Vox, has taken a lot of the control, and people are sick of it and are actually fighting back. So the crazy thing is, Spain has been going down this socialist path for a while now. This isn't new, and so it seems that people are just not going to let it get to that point, or at least it looks like that. And it's just a lot of unrest. It's especially in Madrid. I don't know that the entirety of Spain is out in the streets. It just seems like the capital, which is Madrid, is out in the streets. So I don't know. It's an interesting story. I do think that the lack of media coverage is definitely a thing that our own media, I think, is blocking. You don't really hear the stories of when people are against socialism. It's just, why are they so quiet on this? It's a huge story. Madrid is a huge city. People out in the streets at all hours. Why is this?
Oh, you know why. Just as you made fun of me for pretending as if I didn't understand why politicians would lie, you know why the media doesn't want us to know that there's people that are actually rallying for freedom.
Right.
That's very counter to their
Narrative.
interests.
Yeah.
And their narrative for that matter. So
Yeah. I mean, you're supposed to love socialism. Who doesn't love free things, right? Like this is what they tell you all the time. You know,
Right.
it's these evil capitalists that don't want this socialist thing. I think that they've been living under it, and they have. I mean, Spain is a country that's gone through this before, so I think that we're finally seeing people fighting back, and I'm here for it.
And we're seeing it also in Argentina with Javier Mele. That's about as hopeful. He's like I think he's probably the only anarcho-capitalist.
This Sunday is the election. Go Milei.
Yeah. So for those that aren't paying attention to it, he's an anarcho-capitalist. I mean, he's like me. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts.
Okay,
that
just
this dude
tone
has
it
a
down
chance.
though, because he is a politician, and you know that I have been Team Milei for years now.
Yeah.
But he is a politician.
So are you telling me that he's not good?
I'm saying that I've heard from Argentinians that they really like him, but also they're a little concerned because he does have some ties with people. You know, he listen, I don't know if he's playing the political game to get ahead, and that's why he has to align himself with some people.
I think I know where you're going with this, because he wants to align and he wants to get away from, I think it's the peso in Argentina, and he wants to have the US dollar as the currency.
And
Now,
cryptocurrency and potentially even Bitcoin.
right. And that's obviously great. But the fact that he wants to go with the US dollar, to me, says this guy knows that the CIA will topple him unless he plays ball. And maybe that's why he's going that direction. But maybe not.
But also the economy in Argentina is just absolutely destroyed. It's been wrecked. It's been hyperinflated because the government there tried to print money out of thin air, just like the government here is doing, and absolutely just devalued it to extreme extents where you now have to go through private bookers illegally to change your money in a currency that is actually worthwhile for you to be there. If you go through the official channels, you essentially get robbed by the government there. That, of course, their official conversion is absolutely not realistic to the real situation on the ground there. As, of course, U.S. dollars do have a lot of prominence when you bring them into Argentina. You have those bolivars. Bolivars in Argentina?
No, they're the peso.
The
They're Argentinian
pesos.
peso.
Bolivars
Venezuela.
are in Venezuela.
Which was also hyperinflated and crap, so you don't want that.
No. I did some reporting on the ground in Caracas, and it was absolutely wild and just absolutely infuriating to see what the government did to the local populations there as the value of everyone's savings was just eviscerated and then eviscerated in Argentina.
In Venezuela. I lived in Venezuela when
the currency collapsed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the start of it. I lived in Venezuela when it was 4.25 bolívares to $1. And then that was the first bolívar, because then it hyperinflated so much that they had to create a new bolívar. And then that hyperinflated too. So, I mean, it's government printing money. I mean, at least the United States has like the petrodollar, and everybody wants the dollar. So it kind of keeps us in check. For now. But it keeps us in check. I mean, if we didn't have that demand, then we would be in the same situation.
Long ago.
Was there like writings on the wall that you saw that were kind of troubling in Venezuela when you were there, that you kind of saw the trajectory of where it was going?
So I was a child, but my father, who had escaped Cuban communism and saw this before, and I remember him vividly telling all of his friends, like, I've seen this before, it's happening here. And Venezuelans back in that time were very well off. They were the richest country in Latin America. And so they would be like, you know what? And my dad being at that time, now Venezuela is filled with Cubans. It's taken over by Cuba. But at the time, my dad was one of the few Cubans, you know, in his friend group. And they'd be like, no, Cubano, you don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea. And my dad was like, no, trust me. I've seen this before. And they're like, we have petroleum. We have so much petroleum. This will never happen here. Fast forward, it happened.
Yep.
And, you know, if it's worth anything, my dad says the same thing about America. So
I was just going to say, there's so many people from like former Eastern Bloc nations that broke off of the USSR that have, immigrated to America that tell me the same thing constantly. They go, we've lived this before, people. Listen to us. This is a Marxist revolution that you're living through. It's the early days. It doesn't feel like it. You're like, this is America. We have gun rights. Free speech. There's no way. What's that?
For now.
Yeah, exactly. For now.
You have gun rights. For now.
Yeah, and the what scares me is that there's this dichotomous attack where you have Nikki Haley, who's allegedly, the scion of conservatism, but she's basically a communist herself. She wants to have censorship and all this other nonsense of infinite spending, infinite war. Then on the left, you have Joe Biden, who's just a freaking skin puppet that doesn't have any thoughts at all for himself. He just does whatever, probably what Jamie Dimon wants him to do. So they have you have these two options that are being presented to you, right? But what do they offer you? Anything different? No, not really. Like, where will the war be? That might be the choice you get to make. It's pathetic.
So
you make no choices.
Yeah,
we should not be under.
We have the results of the poll here on YouTube, which has very record low participation. I wonder why. But when people were asked, who would you vote for, Nikki Haley or Joe Biden? If you had to vote for somebody, it's nearly a 50-50 split. And yeah,
I don't blame him.
I mean,
that's a hard choice to make.
But that's a potential of what our upcoming presidential elections could
What
look
happened
like.
to the libertarians? And where's the rise of the libertarians in that scenario is my question.
I definitely think they haven't taken advantage of the situation. I think they definitely need a lot more work. I believe we're going to have the lead kind of front runner for the libertarian presidential candidacy here on the show.
Chase Oliver?
Is it Chase Oliver, or
he's referencing Michael Reckenwolf,
or is it what's it called? What's his name? That guy from that hick from that Netflix show. That the Tiger King. Is it going to be Tiger King? I would love to have Tiger King. This is a personal invitation to Tiger King, who's an inspiration to all, to come on this show and to give us his take on what he would do as president of the United States. As of course, he is throwing his wonderful hat into the ring, and he might be the candidate that libertarians deserve, in my opinion.
Well, he's certainly entertaining, if that's all we're looking for. I guess that works. Look, the Libertarian Party is kind of scrambling to figure out what they're going to do, and I think there's still a potential that they catch fire in 2024. It hasn't happened yet. There's a lot of infighting. There's a lot of people that are running against each other that are tearing each other down. We'll see where it goes. I don't know.
What do you think is going to happen in the Argentinian election? As of course, there's a lot of controversy surrounding Mele. He allegedly, this is the news report that I saw. Martha, maybe you could tell me if this is true or not. He was saying that he hears voices in his head, and that this will essentially lead to him losing the election. As of course, the elections now in Argentina are runoff elections because they were too close to call. So now they're doing breakaway elections that are going to be happening very soon, right?
Sunday.
Yeah,
the 19th.
This Sunday.
This Sunday.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This Sunday.
Do you
I'm
have any
excited.
faith in the election's legitimacy?
I have no faith in any election legitimacy.
Fair.
I just, I ran a campaign here in Miami-Dade County, and I saw some things. So I have no faith in it whatsoever. I will
that
say
you ran through a website that we can't mention here on this particular broadcast that we are going to be talking about on Rumble. So, sorry.
Yay. Yeah, so Patricia Bullrich, who was the third candidate in that run, that did not make the runoff. She was the third top candidate. She endorsed Mele. And she had 20%, he had 20%, and they, together, I think they would absolutely beat him. So the fact that she's backing Mele, I think he will win. If I had to bet, I'd say he's going to win.
I do too.
He has all this, push behind him right now. And in the debate, I didn't watch the whole thing, but I mean, he just eviscerated Massa, who's the, he's the
leftist kind of establishment
super leftist,
corporatist.
Yes, and he's also the financial whatever for Argentina right now. So
can you imagine that you're living through hyperinflation? You have the finance czar who's an option, and then you have a guy who's saying no, I'm going to give you sound money. I'm going to make the economy work, and it's still a coin flip. How crazy is that?
I stopped trying to understand it a long time ago, and that's the thing about Latin America, that it seems like we don't get out of this stuff because people are just not educated and they don't choose to become educated on this subject. I think people who are see Mele as, we can't do any worse than this guy. Let's try it.
But if Bukele could do it in El Salvador, I think it does provide a window of opportunity for a lot of kind of capitalistic right-wingers, more libertarian, more freedom-oriented individuals that are bringing solutions towards a lot of problems that do plague Latin America, because financially Latin America is in the crappers. They're not doing that well. There's a reason why there's so many migrant caravans of individuals saying, I'm just going to drop everything I have. We're going to create a little bit of a brain drain wherever I'm at. Doesn't matter. I'm going to America to get my U.S. dollars that Joe Biden keeps promising me with all the NGOs and groups that, of course, are down there saying, hey, if you just come here, you'll get given everything. And in some places you do. So
I think it would. If he goes to the Bitcoin, if he goes to dollar, I think the same thing that we see in El Salvador. We see people like migrating there from these rich countries. You see, I was just in El Salvador this week. I ran into so many Americans, so many Brits, so many Kiwis, New Zealanders there that it's impressive. I mean, I was the first person to start criticizing Bukele. I was like, oh, he's a little too authoritarian for me, but I got to give it to him. He's definitely cleaned up the streets. You talk to Salvadorians and they're like, you know, it's great. You used to get stabbed in the street, used to be fearful of all of this. And now you can actually walk around. You can actually go outside and you're not fearful. You can walk around at past 8 p.m. So
he actually went after crime and didn't criminalize normal behavior. Like, holy cow, that's rare, because when politicians are given vast amounts of power, they're like, yeah, we're going to just get the criminals, and they end up getting their political opponents and end up getting
there's a little
everyone
bit
else.
of that
and there's a history of the CIA and the banana republics, and of course the economic hitman intervening in Latin America and just saying, hey, you know what? We're the CIA. We're going to pop and take you out or give us your resources, please. And a lot of the despots and dictators are usually placed in from the CIA by the United States. And sometimes they support right-wing guys. Sometimes they support left-wing guys. But what happened in Chile was a right-wing guy was put in by essentially Henry Kissinger during the 1973 coup d'etat that ended up with some significant life loss.
Well, I just wanted to say real quick that I'm actually very hopeful about the geopolitical, I don't want to say global South, then I sound like a socialist, but the Latin America. I have so many followers on Twitter that are, Spanish speakers, Portuguese speakers, because they're from Brazil, they're from Argentina, they're from Venezuela. Like the Austrian economics is just catching fire in a way that I think it's more of a hotbed for Rothbard and Mises and Ron Paulianism than anywhere else on earth. Maybe even more so than America. It's really incredible what's happening.
It is. You know that in Guatemala they have the only libertarian university.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, Francisco Marroquí, which Gloria Alvarez is
Okay.
Okay, Gloria Alvarez is an alum from there. So I think there is a big movement moving towards libertarian ideas, but it's not big enough. And you can see that with Brazil and with the Foro Sao Paulo. I mean, there's just, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
These countries have so much power. Recently the most well-known Brazilian podcaster, they call him the Brazilian Joe Rogan, Monarch. He had to flee Brazil because he made a comment on his show and the judicial system came after him and they, shut him down, effectively just, he couldn't even post to Twitter. He was being banned from posting from even Twitter.
And isn't the former president there also facing some significant charges as well? And
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, isn't Brazil arresting their political opponents right now, just like they're doing here inside of the United States?
Like they're doing to Donald Trump? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the things that you can look across Latin America and just see. So that happened in Nicaragua. They arrested every political candidate that was running for president last year. I mean, it's just the thing that they do. So when you're questioning whether your government is too authoritarian, if they start arresting the political candidates instead of like trying to actually beat them in the polls, you've crossed that line.
Right. Well, and particularly when they're not arresting them for like their actual crimes.
Right.
like when they have unconstitutional wars that kill tens of thousands of people. Fine. Totally fine. But if you keep a classified document after you're out of the White House, well, then you got to go to jail, buddy. It's ridiculous.
So I'm really curious what's going to be happening to Mele.
Milei.
Javier Mele. As of course, his rants and his speeches are absolutely incredible. Here's one of them that I recently saw that has inspired a lot of people to back this man who might be the next president of Argentina.
La justicia social, que es lo más injusto que existe, porque implica robarle a una persona el fruto de su trabajo para dárselo a quien a mí se me da la gana. Pero ¿de dónde salieron esta manga?
Oídos meos, buffering. Clint, translate really quickly. What did he say?
I speak Spanish to a very low extent. So, Martha, please.
He was saying that, he has this very expressive language. So I first have to say that, like, when you listen to him, it fills my heart because he's just so awesome and, like, the way he says things.
He's an incredible orator. I love it.
Yes, he's amazing. But he was saying that it's insane to take from from one group of people to give to whoever the political class feels like. And I mean, it happens here in America. Who are these people making decisions? Like, we have to give up, 40% of your income for whatever it is that these people want to give it to.
Israel, Ukraine.
Among others, among many, many, many others, I know plenty of Catholic people that would hate to give their money to abortions, and they have to. So it's so many things that you have to give your money for, and that's what he's talking about.
Or the transitioning of children, which is absolutely crazy. I think we loaded up the rest of the video. Let's play this.
Manga de sátrapa. ¿Sabes por qué? Porque además en todo ese proceso, no solo que destruyeron la economía, empobrecieron a la gente, ¿sí? Desde el año 70 hasta ahora el Estado se triplicó y multiplicaron por 6 el número de pobres, ¿sí? ¿Y sabes quiénes fueron los únicos que provocaron? Políticos. Entonces, ¿saben qué? Quieren, digamos, quedarse en este país, ¿saben qué? Tienen que identificar el enemigo son los políticos, hay que ir contra los políticos, esos son nuestros enemigos, esos son los que nos hunden en la pobreza, esos son los únicos que progresaron con este verso de la justicia social y la redistribución del ingreso. La verdadera redistribución del ingreso fue desde los que laburamos a los parásitos de los políticos. A ver, la justicia social, que es lo más injusto que existe, porque implica robarle a una persona el fruto de su trabajo para dárselo a quien a mí da la gana, pero ¿de dónde salieron esta manga de sátrapas? ¿Sabes por qué? Porque además en todo ese proceso, no solo que destruyeron la
I
economía,
don't know what in the hell happened, but looks like we are back. Translate that, Clint, in Spanish. Let's go. Riba, riba, vámonos.
Put ones in the chat if you can hear us first off.
Yes, they can. We're fine.
Okay.
I know what I'm doing. What I'm doing here.
All right. Just making sure, buddy.
Translate, Clint. Let's go.
Dude, I didn't even have my headphones on.
I know. I couldn't hear most of that, but I think he was talking about how the political class kind of screws us over and over again.
He's really an interesting character. Do you know? I know he was a rock star before he got into politics. Is that true?
I don't know that he was a rock star, but he was definitely on political shows, and like he's just really good at speaking, his mind. And
yeah. Well, he seems like a total lunatic, but like my type of lunatic.
Yeah,
so
my type of lunatic, totally. And he like there's pictures of him dressed up as like a narco man.
Yeah.
Like he's just such a character. I really
He reminds me a lot of Donald Trump.
It's the hair and the personality that
The Harry
truly,
Potter hair.
that truly do stand out. And I wish him the best because I think Latin America definitely needs a change from all the leftist-dominated hegemony that they have been inundated with. As of course they just keep voting for more and more government and keep being inundated with more and more problems. So I don't know if Clint, you ever visited or spent some time in Latin America, but you really do get a big awakening to just how lucky and privileged you are for being here inside of the United States comparatively to what people down there have to go through. As of course, poverty there is just normalized. People on the streets there are just normalized. People just trying to sell and trade wherever they could is just normalized there, and it's a lot different than, of course, what we take for granted here inside of the United States.
Yeah, I've been to Colombia and Panama and Costa Rica and a bunch of other places, and the one takeaway I have is, like, Luke's right that there is obviously more poverty, but in terms of natural resources, in terms of work ethic, in terms of the people, I don't think that there's any reason for them to be living in that way. So from my vantage point, what I see is just corrupt government run amok and people that haven't found a way to curtail that.
Natural resources is a great point to make because Venezuela has the most
it's
oil.
incredible.
They have more oil than Saudi Arabia. They have more oil than the Middle East. So,
but they nationalized it.
They nationalized it, which funny story to me at least. My father had a farm, and we had an oil rig on the farm. And I remember, growing up halfway between the U.S. and Venezuela, I saw this oil rig and on his farm. I'm like, Dad, you never told me we were rich. And he was like, yeah, we don't get to touch that. That's not ours.
He's like, we could be, but we're not.
But we're not. So yeah, it's one of those things. In the town that I lived in, oil just pops up everywhere. Like Maracaibo, it's just everywhere. And natural resources isn't enough. You need a political class that isn't robbing people. And Venezuela is one of those cases where the political class has been robbing them since forever. And that's the problem with Latin America. I don't think that it will, even if Milei wins, even if, El Salvador is doing great, it's still so big and it's still so corrupt. And they have had that brain drain. And that's the problem with, all of this stuff going on. On one end, I love that the brain drain happens and they come to America. We wouldn't have Tesla if Elon Musk wouldn't have come here. Sure. So South Africa is missing out on having him, for example. And so many others that come to this country and here are able to build themselves up. So I love that brain drain happens because it's benefiting us. But this is going to happen to America if we keep going down this route too. We are going to drain these incredible people. They're going to go elsewhere.
Well, there's news reports right now of migrants that came from Venezuela, ended up in Chicago, and they're like, screw this place. We're going back to Caracas because this is not okay. And once you have individuals saying, Caracas is better than Chirac, a major American city, a major industrial city. This is a sign that I think is worth paying attention to. The brain drain also really bad for Latin America, especially with this open immigration, open border policy. As of course, this is how a lot of these countries are not able to, of course, deal and fix themselves because their best people, their hardest working people, they're individuals who have the most initiative, who take life by the bull horns. They're the ones who are saying, I'm just going to go to America and take advantage of all the situations that the lazy Americans aren't taking advantage of. As of course, there is a difference between people who have immigrated to this country and people who are born in this country. And I truly do believe that, especially talking to a lot of fellow immigrants. No offense, Clint. But I do believe there is such a thing of this kind of immigration attitude that goes to America like my family did, like I did, because I came from Poland, and says, holy frickin' cow, we got so many opportunities here. We have the freedom of speech. We have so many economic opportunities here. A lot of those other countries don't have that, and we take it for granted here the longer we stay here and think everything's hunky-dory when it's not. We're going to move over to YouTube in just a little bit. We have a Rumble. Sorry.
Talk about that brain drain, huh?
Listen, Martha, you're barking up the wrong tree here. As of course, we're going to have more of a lively conversation about this topic, about this right here. What do I mean? What am I trying to represent here? About an unethical sharpening of pencils that happens to babies. We're going to talk about that discussion in full detail. We're going to go in on Martha, go in on Clint, as well as having more very lively discussions about issues that we cannot discuss here, especially with the crazy video that just came out with Will Smith. Yeah, we're going to be getting into all that plus a lot more on rumble.com/wearechange. You want to go to Rumble? Just go to rumble.com. That's all you got to do. Go on the browser. Steph, put the browser on, please. Once you are here on the front page, we are the video right here in the middle. You click on it, and of course, you could hear us and see us, as of course, YouTube does not allow free speech, does not allow the sharing of news stories and articles that are a little bit controversial, but on Rumble, we could do whatever we want, and we take full advantage of that on rumble.com. Again, a lot of people are like, send me the link, bro, send me the... No. Go to rumble.com. That's all you got to do. It's quick, it's easy, and simple, and it's an important transition that people need to make more than ever, especially in such a